The 1970s didn't just produce great country songs from women, it produced a complete redefinition of what a woman in country music was allowed to say out loud.
But now I feel such emptiness within.
About divorce, about loneliness, about desire, about walking away from a mentor who built your career in the first place.
Please don't take him just because you can.
These are 10 of the best female country singers of the decade, and the songs that made sure nobody could look away.
And how you could easily take my man, but you don't know what he means.
Number 10, Country Sunshine, Dottie West, 1973.
I was raised on country sunshine.
Dottie West had already been a hitmaker for a decade, the first female country artist ever to win a Grammy back in 1965, when Coca-Cola came calling with an unusual assignment: write jingles for their ad campaigns. West and producer Billy Davis wrote 12 of them together, and one, built around the image of trading city lights for a simpler country life, tested so well with audiences that it won a Clio Award, advertising's answer to an Oscar.
But I was raised on country.
The jingle was so popular that West decided to record a full version and release it as a single. Country Sunshine came out in September 1973, and it reached number 2 on the Billboard Country chart, becoming the biggest hit of her career to that point, despite starting life as 60 seconds of commercial airtime.
Through fields of daisies, waiting through.
West's own path to this moment ran through the mentorship of Patsy Cline, who took her under her wing in the early 1960s before Cline's death in a 1963 plane crash. West paid that forward for the rest of her career, helping launch the careers of Larry Gatlin, Jeannie Seeley, and a teenage steel guitarist named Steve Wariner. And in a strange twist of songwriting history, it was at West's own Nashville home that a struggling songwriter named Kris Kristofferson wrote one of the most important country songs of the decade, a song that belongs to someone else entirely on this list.
I was raised on country sunshine.
Country Sunshine earned West a lifetime contract with Coca-Cola and 2 Grammy nominations, and it remains the song most people mean when they talk about the moment Dottie West became a genuine crossover star, built from a jingle nobody expected to outlive the ad campaign.
Feeling to rest inside of me.
Number 9, Help Me Make It Through the Night, Sammi Smith, 1971.
Take the ribbon from my hair.
Kris Kristofferson wrote the song while staying at Dottie West's house, pulling the title from something Frank Sinatra had told Esquire magazine when asked what he believed in: booze, broads, or a Bible. Whatever helps me make it through the night. Kristofferson's own version, released on his debut album in 1970, went almost entirely unnoticed.
Help me make it through.
Sammi Smith heard it differently. She recorded her own version that same year and made one crucial change to the opening line. Kristofferson had written, "Take the ribbon from your hair," sung from a man's perspective asking a woman to stay. Smith changed it to, "Take the ribbon from my hair," shifting the entire song's point of view and turning it into a woman making her own choice, on her own terms, at a time when country radio rarely let a female singer say something that direct.
And let it fall.
Released in late 1970, Smith's version hit number 1 on the country chart in early 1971 and crossed over to number 8 on the pop chart. It won her a Grammy for Best Female Country Vocal Performance and the Country Music Association's Single of the Year, and it launched Kristofferson into the songwriting spotlight that would define the rest of his career. Smith went on to chart 34 more times on the country charts over the following 15 years, so calling her a one-hit wonder undersells her career considerably. But nothing she recorded ever matched the cultural weight of the song she changed with a single word, turning someone else's request into her own declaration.
Through the night.
Number 8, Snowbird, Anne Murray, 1970.
Beneath its snowy mantle, cold and clear.
Gene McClellan wrote the song in about 25 minutes after watching a flock of snow buntings take off from a beach in Prince Edward Island, wondering what it might be like to simply fly away from whatever was weighing you down. He performed it once on a Canadian television show, unrecorded, and offered it to Anne Murray, a fellow performer he'd met on the same program, telling her she could be the first to put it on record. Murray recorded it for her 1969 album, This Way Is My Way, where it sat as an album track rather than a planned single. Radio stations found it anyway. It slowly built momentum through 1970, eventually reaching number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the Adult Contemporary chart, taking 8 months to cross the border from Canadian radio into full American mainstream success.
The snowbird sings a song.
Snowbird made Murray the first Canadian female solo artist ever to earn a gold record in the United States, selling more than 1 million copies in 1970 alone and earning her 2 Grammy nominations. It also cemented a genre-blending sound, part country, part pop, part adult contemporary, that would define her entire career and eventually make her one of the best-selling Canadian artists in music history.
He always sings and speaks to me.
The song's afterlife has been almost as remarkable as its initial run. Covered in Czech, German, Swedish, Italian, and Flemish, recorded by artists from Chet Atkins to Lawrence Welk, and still remembered as the single that opened American radio to a wave of Canadian country and pop artists that would eventually include Shania Twain and K.D. Lang.
Flowers that will bloom again in spring.
Number 7. Sleeping Single in a Double Bed, Barbara Mandrell, 1978.
Sleeping single in a double bed.
By 1978, Barbara Mandrell had already charted 19 singles on Billboard's country chart, a genuinely successful career by any measure, but not one number 1 to show for it. Songwriters Kai Fleming and Dennis Morgan brought her a song about the specific, physical loneliness of an empty half of a bed after a breakup, built on a hook so plainly relatable that it barely needed a chorus to sell itself.
Sleeping single in a double bed.
Producer Tom Collins gave the track a polished, radio-friendly arrangement that leaned toward pop production values, part of a broader late 1970s shift in country music toward crossover sound. Mandrell's vocal performance carried the song's emotional weight regardless, delivering both the vulnerability and the wry humor buried inside lines about pouring a drink just to have someone to blame for the hangover.
Now I'm the one sleeping all alone.
Released in August 1978, Sleeping Single in a Double Bed became Mandrell's 20th chart entry, and finally, her first number 1, holding the top spot for 3 weeks that November. It won an American Music Award the following year and became the signature song of a career that would eventually include 5 more country number 1s and a run as one of the most recognizable stars in the genre, host of her own network variety show by the early 1980s.
Sleeping single in a double bed. Toss and turn it.
It's a rare case of a song that took an already established star 9 years to find, proof that a career built patiently, one top 20 single at a time, can still be waiting on its defining moment well after most people would have assumed it had already arrived.
I'm sleeping single in a double bed.
Before we get to the top 6, if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the time. This channel breaks down the stories behind classic country every week. 6 of the best are still ahead. Number 6, Would You Lay With Me in a Field of Stone, Tanya Tucker, 1974.
Would you lay with me in a...
Tucker was 15 years old when this song reached number 1, already a star since Delta Dawn made her famous at 13. The song itself, written by David Allan Coe, carried lyrics adult enough that some radio programmers hesitated to play it for a singer her age. Lines about needing and wanting that read very differently coming from a teenager than they would from anyone else.
miles through the burning sand.
Tucker herself has said the controversy missed the point entirely. Years after recording it, she got to know Coe personally, and he told her the song was actually written about his own brother's wedding vows, a declaration of lifelong devotion rather than anything more suggestive. Tucker has since called it the perfect wedding song, a complete reversal of how it was received on release.
With me in a field of stone.
Produced by Billy Sherrill and released in December 1973, the song reached number 1 on the country chart by March 1974, Tucker's third consecutive chart topper, and crossed over onto the Hot 100 as well. It earned her a Grammy nomination for Best Country Vocal Performance, Female, though she lost that year to Canadian singer Anne Murray for Love Song.
Grow dry, would you wet them?
Tucker would go on to have a long, complicated career marked by both remarkable talent and well-documented personal struggles in the years that followed. But at 15, she was already delivering a vocal performance mature enough that, as more than one critic put it at the time, nobody would have guessed her age if they hadn't already known it.
Would you lay with?
Number 5. If I Could Only Win Your Love, Emmylou Harris, 1975.
If I could only win your love.
Harris discovered the Louvin brothers through Graham Parsons, the country rock musician she'd been touring and recording with before his death from a drug and alcohol overdose in September 1973. Parsons had handed her a cassette before a trip to Los Angeles, and she recalled having no idea who the Louvins even were, briefly assuming one of them was a woman based on the name alone.
Can I ever show how I burn?
She fell hard for their sound anyway, later describing it as something scary and washed in the blood, compared to the smoother harmonies of the Everly Brothers she'd grown up on. After Parsons' death, Harris regrouped, formed her own band, and began work on what would become her major label solo debut, Pieces of the Sky, choosing the Louvins' 1958 song, If I Could Only Win Your Love, as one of its centerpieces, sung as a close harmony duet with Herb Pedersen in tribute to the brothers' original arrangement.
I'd rather wear your wedding.
Released in June 1975, the song reached number 4 on the country chart and became Harris's first true commercial breakthrough, a full 2 years after the loss that had nearly ended her career before it properly began. It also topped the Canadian country chart outright.
Can I ever say how great?
The album built around it, Pieces of the Sky, became the record widely credited with launching Harris as a solo artist in her own right, separate from her association with Parsons, built on a striking mix of covers spanning the Louvin brothers, Merle Haggard, the Beatles, and Dolly Parton, all filtered through a voice that would go on to define an entire strand of country music for the next 5 decades.
Love when you're gone away. Oh, how
Number 4. Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue, Crystal Gayle, 1977.
don't know when I've been so blue.
Gayle was Loretta Lynn's younger sister, born Brenda Gayle Webb, and when she signed her first record deal, the label wanted nothing more than watered-down versions of Lynn's own songs. Lynn herself gave her sister the advice that would define her career: stop singing anything Loretta would sing, and stop trying to sound like her. Songwriter Richard Lee had already written 3 of Gayle's previous top 10 hits when he brought her Don't It Make My Brown Eyes Blue, a jazzy, understated ballad that leaned further from traditional country instrumentation than almost anything on the radio at the time. Gayle recorded her vocal in a single take, telling Billboard years later that it simply fell into place from the moment pianist Pig Robbins started playing.
And don't it make my brown eyes, don't it?
Released in June 1977, the song topped the country chart for 4 weeks and climbed to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, held out of the top spot for 3 weeks by Debbie Boone's You Light Up My Life. It won Gayle a Grammy for Best Female Country Vocal Performance and became the first single by a female country artist to help push an album, We Must Believe in Magic, to platinum certification.
Didn't know.
There's a small irony sitting at the center of it all. The song is titled after brown eyes, but Crystal Gayle's own eyes are blue. It didn't matter. The song became her permanent signature the moment she stopped being introduced as Loretta Lynn's little sister and started being introduced simply as Crystal Gayle.
Cry, say anything.
Number 3. Till I Get It Right, Tammy Wynette, 1972.
Falling in love till
By 1972, Tammy Wynette was already the reigning First Lady of country music. With 11 previous number 1s to her name, and a run of hits about marriage and heartbreak produced by Billy Sherrill that had made her one of the defining voices of the genre. Songwriters Red Lane and Larry Henley brought her a quieter, more resigned song this time, about picking yourself back up after love keeps failing, promising to keep trying until you finally get it right. Australian singer Diana Trask claimed for years afterward that she had actually recorded the song first, only to watch her version get shelved the moment word got out that Wynette wanted to cut it too. "I seemed to come up against Tammy all the time and emerge the loser," Trask wrote in her memoir, a small but telling detail about just how much commercial gravity Wynette carried at her peak. Released in December 1972 and produced, as almost everything in her catalog was, by Billy Sherrill, "Till I Get It Right" became Wynette's 12th #1, holding the top spot for a week and spending 12 weeks on the chart overall. It arrived at the exact center of the run that made Wynette the single most dominant female voice in country music during the first half of the decade, sandwiched between the controversy of DIVORCE and the cultural flashpoint of Stand By Your Man. Where those songs made her famous, Till I Get It Right is the quieter proof of how consistently she could turn simple, direct language into something that felt like it belonged to every listener who'd ever failed at love and tried again anyway. Number 2. Coal Miner's Daughter, Loretta Lynn, 1970. Lynn wrote the song herself in 1969, working out the melody and lyrics simultaneously, starting from the plain truth of the first line, "Well, I was born a coal miner's daughter." She built the rest from memory. Her father's mining shifts in Butcher Hollow, Kentucky, her mother's hands bleeding from scrubbing clothes on a washboard, reading the Bible by coal oil light because there was no electricity. Producer Owen Bradley released it as a single in October 1970, and it climbed steadily for 8 weeks before replacing Sonny James's Endlessly at #1 that December, becoming the fourth of what would eventually total 16 solo country chart toppers for Lynn, a tally separate from the 5 additional #1s she'd go on to score in duets with Conway Twitty. It also became her first ever entry on the Billboard Hot 100, even though it never crossed over commercially the way some of her other hits did. Lynn herself considered it a turning point in how she was allowed to write. "It told everybody that I could write about something else besides marriage problems," she said later, a pointed acknowledgement of how much of her earlier catalog had been built around the tougher, more confrontational songs that had also made her famous and occasionally controversial. The song's afterlife dwarfed even its considerable chart success. It lent its title to Lynn's 1976 autobiography, which in turn became the basis for the 1980 film of the same name, earning Sissy Spacek an Academy Award for playing her. Lynn died in October 2022 at 90, and by then, Coal Miner's Daughter had long since stopped being simply a song. It had become the permanent shorthand for who she was and exactly where she'd come from. Number 1, Jolene, Dolly Parton, 1973.
Jolene, 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 Jolene.
Parton wrote Jolene and I Will Always Love You within the same handful of hours, on the same day, an almost unbelievable stretch of songwriting productivity that produced 2 of the most enduring songs in American music back to back. Jolene pulled from 2 entirely separate real-life sources: a flame-haired bank teller who'd developed an open crush on Parton's husband, Carl Dean, and a young red-haired autograph seeker who told Parton her name backstage one night. Parton recalled repeating the girl's name over and over on the walk back to her tour bus, convinced there was a song hiding somewhere inside it. What emerged was a plea rather than a confrontation. A woman begging a beautiful rival not to take her man, rather than attacking her for the temptation she posed. An emotional honesty that set it apart from almost every jealousy song that came before it. Released in October 1973 and produced by Bob Ferguson, Jolene reached #1 on the country chart in February 1974, becoming the first of 4 consecutive chart toppers for Parton at the exact moment she was stepping away from her professional partnership with Porter Wagoner and into a solo career entirely her own, a run that continued through I Will Always Love You, Love Is Like a Butterfly, and The Bargain Store, before finally breaking with her next single, The Seeker, which stalled at #2.
He talks about you in his sleep, and that
More than 50 years later, Jolene has been recorded across nearly every genre, from rock to soul to folk, and reinterpreted by everyone, from Olivia Newton-John to Parton's own goddaughter, Miley Cyrus. In 2024, Beyoncé rebuilt it entirely for Cowboy Carter, swapping Parton's plea for a warning. The song Parton wrote in one sitting, Chasing the Sound of a 10-Year-Old's Name, has spent half a century proving there's no single right way to beg, threaten, or bargain your way through jealousy. Only Dolly's original, still standing at the center of all of them.